Knowing that it could potentially fetch $1 million at an auction, I can't leave that much money on the table. $750 really, man, that's a bottom dollar I can take for the guitar.
6.
While every deal on Pawn Stars isn't amazing, sometimes a deal comes along that's actually really impressive. From priceless guitars to mint condition antique cars, these are some of the biggest Pawn Star deals of all time. Ship's bell from 1602. Sometimes a seller walks into the pawn shop believing that they have a priceless artifact on their hands that could be worth big money. More often than not, they're wrong. However, when a woman walked into the shop with an antique bell she claims is from the Dutch East India Company, she was right on the money. The crew was skeptical, and rightfully so. The bell was in such good condition, despite the fact that it had been underwater for centuries. It gave the Harrisons reason to doubt its authenticity. When they consulted an expert, it was confirmed that the bell was in fact the real deal and worth $15,000. Spanish Fleet Coin 1715. An inherited coin from the Spanish fleet dating back to 1715 could quite possibly be one of the coolest finds on Pawn Stars yet. The coin was brought in by a woman whose family had passed down the coin for generations. The coin had been around the block a few times, starting out as a treasure ship bringing gold from Cuba to Spain in 1715. After an expert examined the coin and determined its worth to be around $18,000, the guys bought the coin for $11,000. Egyptian mummy mask. Like a scene right out of Indiana Jones, this next item is a really rare find. The Harrisons got a real treat when an authentic mummy mask made its way into the shop. Their antiquities expert, Dr. Phineas Castell, examined the mask and confirmed its authenticity. He set the mask's value at $22,500, citing that it could potentially be worth much more. Worried that he might not get the deal, Corey thought it over and offered $30,000 to ensure that he'd be the new owner. Polish White Eagle Emblem. In 1795, when Russia obtained the largest part of Poland after it was split into 3 parts, the official emblem of Poland, the White Eagle, was added to the Russian emblem. When a seller entered the shop with a medal he bought at a garage sale for just 75 cents, Rick couldn't believe what he was seeing. The seller was in possession of an original Polish White Eagle medal. Rick was eager to own the piece and offered the seller $6,000, which the seller happily took. But this gets even better. After the deal was made, Rick showed the medal to an expert who appraised the medal for $30,000 to $40,000. Rick ended up selling the medal and making a $30,000 profit. 1842 Book of Mormon. A lot of books come through the pawn shop on Pawn Stars. Some are worth more than others, but one of the most impressive books was an 1842 edition of the Book of Mormon. The appraiser said that the book was the most valuable one the shop has ever had him appraise. He determined that the book was worth $40,000. One of the reasons the book is so valuable is because of the troubled beginnings of the Mormon Church. Another reason that particular edition was valuable is because it was the final edition that was printed before the founder of the Mormon religion had died. Rick ended up paying the seller $24,000. JFK cigar box. Presidential items are usually worth a lot, and the more popular the president, the more money you can get for the item. When a seller walked into the pawn shop with a cigar box that sat on the desk of John F. Kennedy during his time in the White House, it was a staple on JFK's desk and even had some unsmoked cigars in it. The seller was looking to sell it for $95,000. After some heavy negotiating, Rick was able to talk the seller down to $60,000. In 1996, a similar cigar box that once belonged to JFK sold for $575,000 to the publisher of the magazine Cigar Aficionado. 1915 gold coin. When the team left the shop to head to a rare coin auction, they were about to find the deal of a lifetime. Up for auction was a rare 1915 Panama Pacific octagonal gold coin. A customer back home was willing to pay big money for that coin, and Rick was ready to make it happen. The coin, which was minted at 90% gold and 10% copper, were made to commemorate the opening of the Panama Canal. The owner was selling it for $70,000, but Rick was able to take it for $67,500. 1961 Stratocaster guitar. When a valuable instrument is brought into the shop, it's very rare that the original owner is the one bringing it in to sell. But that was the case when Vic Flick, who had taught many guitar greats like Led Zeppelin's Jimmy Page, came in looking to sell his 1961 Stratocaster guitar. He had played that guitar in a number of famous recordings, such as the Beatles' A Hard Day's Night and the theme to the James Bond Goldfinger movie. Even though the guitar was missing a case, Rick was very interested in acquiring that specific instrument. After confirming Flick's identity, Rick was able to make the deal for a cool $55,000. 1932 Ford Roadster. Old vintage cars that have been kept in great shape are a weakness for Rick, who has trouble turning down a deal when it involves a cool, hot rod. A seller came to the shop with his custom 1932 Ford Roadster in tow. Rick immediately started negotiating. Even though the car was 80 years old, the man had kept it in perfect condition. Despite its age, the car only had 450 miles on it. The car was examined by Danny, the car expert, who claimed the car was worth $75,000. Rick was able to purchase the car for $68,250. 2014 Hertz Penske GT Mustang. When the customer who drove a pristine 2014 Hertz Penske GT Mustang to the shop pulled up, he knew he had something special. In 2014, Roger Penske had teamed up with Hertz Rent-A-Racer program to create 150 limited edition vehicles. Besides being one of the lucky 150, this particular car happened to be in the first 10 ever made. The car had never been rented and was in impeccable condition. Rick quickly brought in his NASCAR expert to take a look at this beauty. The group brought the car to a racetrack to see what it could do. The expert said the car was worth around $75,000 and Rick offered $60,000. The seller tried his best to negotiate, but in the end the seller settled for the $60,000. Bronze statue of O.J. Simpson. This item is one of the most unique and entertaining to watch that has ever appeared on the show. Rapper Flavor Flav came to the pawn shop with a solid bronze statue of O.J. Simpson. Flavor Flav had kept the statue poolside at his famous Rockingham Avenue house in California. He had been given the statue as a gift from a radio station, but was looking to unload it and was asking for $125,000 and would not budge. Fabergé brooch. When a seller brought in a piece of jewelry they had gotten from a relative, they definitely could not have anticipated what was going to happen next. The seller showed Rick the brooch in the shape of a spider, and Rick immediately knew he was holding something special. The seller was only looking for a couple of $1,000s for the brooch, but knowing what a precious piece it was, Rick offered her $15,000. It turned out that the brooch was worth a whopping $80,000. 1922 High Relief Proof Coin. Sometimes a coin is just a coin, but sometimes a coin can be worth buckets of cash. In this case, a rare 1922 high-relief proof coin was worth more than meets the eye. When a man came in with a coin he had won in a poker game, he had no idea what it would be worth. Only a dozen of these coins were ever made, so coming across one is pretty special. Rick quickly brought in his expert to take a look, and he valued the coin between $50,000 and $100,000. The customer had hoped for a $20,000 payout, but was able to haggle that amount all the way up to $80,000. Joe Greene's Olympic medals. Long jump Olympic bronze medalist Jumpin' Joe Greene brought those bronze medals into the pawn shop. Joe had brought his medals from the 1992 and 96 games. Rick felt sorry for the former Olympian, and he vowed that he wouldn't sell the medals, which were worth approximately $30,000. In his case, Joe wanted to buy them back. True to his word, Rick never sold the medals. New England Patriots championship ring. Similar to Joe Greene falling on hard times, former NFL Patriots defenseman Brock Williams needed to sell his championship ring when he fell on some hard times. Brock was forced to retire early due to injuries and just wasn't able to make ends meet. He ended up selling his 2001 championship ring for a mere $2,600. Even though similar rings had been sold for over $30,000. Brock had 120 days to come back for the ring, but sadly, never did. 1554 Spanish Shipwreck Gold Bar. The seller of this next item had no idea just what he had. He had found a gold bar hidden away with his deceased grandfather's belongings and decided to bring it to the pawn shop. Not really knowing what it'd be worth, the man was stunned to find out that the gold, when melted, would be worth $24,000. But the story doesn't end there. The guys brought in an expert who delivered some rather shocking news. The gold had actually been on a 1554 Spanish shipwreck off of Padre Island in Texas. The gold was worth double due to its past. Rick paid the seller $35,000, a pretty good deal considering it would be worth around $50,000. Stephen Stills' 1941 Gibson guitar. A customer walked into the shop with a very special item that used to belong to Stephen Stills, famously of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. The man brought in Stills' 1941 Gibson guitar and was ready for a deal. The guitar was in great shape and even came with a receipt donning the superstar previous owner's signature. Rick was salivating at the idea of obtaining this piece of rock history. He brought in his expert who'd valued the guitar at $75,000 to $90,000 for the instrument alone. With its rich history and precious owner, the price went up about another $20,000. The man was willing to take $85,000 for it, leaving Rick with quite the profit. Honorable mention, the Godfather script. Since this deal didn't technically go through, we thought we'd give it an honorable mention because the story's pretty interesting. Sometimes an item comes through the shop that is just plain cool. When customer Diane came to the shop with a copy of the original Godfather script signed by Al, she was very curious what it would be worth. Resident autograph expert John Rezkinoff was called in to see if the signature Al was actually the one and only Al Pacino. He confirmed that it was, but despite this fact, the script was only valued at $2,000. Going even lower, the shop offered Diane just $500. And the kicker? It wasn't Al Pacino's signature. What deal would you have made if you were a star on Pawn Stars? Did any of these deals surprise you? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one.